We talked a little bit about us. I think one of the things that's important that we want to help everyone reiterate is that this is an upskilling path that you just don't learn this once and you're not one and done. It's 101, 201, 301. This is a 101 class here. And the key takeaways, I can't talk tonight, that we really want to emphasize is using this as power tools for knowledge work. You guys probably have heard this thing a lot. If you came home and saw someone redoing your kitchen with a manual drill, you're like, why aren't you using a power drill? That same analogy is with these AI tools. And these things are superpowers. Their biggest career accelerant ever, full stop. We see a huge amount of shadow IT where ambitious employees are happy to save 4 or 5 hours by using their personal laptops and cell phones, doing work on that and sending it back in. And obviously a whole bunch of reasons companies want that done in their network here. So power tools for knowledge work. Second is we continue to find audiences that are just overwhelmed with all these tools. And so which one should I use? Which 10? Show me the best one for PowerPoint. And what we continue to see is just pick one, maybe two, and learn to become a competent novice on that, and maybe even an intermediate level here is really, really important. It helps you keep sane. It helps you get more confidence and allows you to really start digging in to your personal use cases where the productivity comes in here. And develop the right mindset. This is not a snowblower. This is a co-intelligence, something that's with us and in every meeting. And the goal of meetings like this is to move the cultural norm from thinking of AI or Copilot as a parlor trick to as the cultural norm. Just as a cultural norm today are email and Word and taking notes and professionalism here, GenAI is the exact same thing here. Never go to a meeting without using GenAI. Never do a big decision without using GenAI. Never think about any kind of brainstorm without getting the GenAI a viewpoint on that. So have you asked the robots, and it's taken, even John and I have now been doing this 2 years, constantly pounding on each other. So boy, that's really good. Have you used have we asked that question to the robots here? So we're going to understand the basics. Basics with confidential data here. That's the sweet spot. Understanding the tool and the confidential data with your work use case here. Most employees tell us that they aren't using it at work because they don't want to get in trouble and they want to make sure they're using it correctly here. We're going to do some hands-on and give you superpowers here. But before I start, I want to show you 50 hours of work in 5 minutes just to kind of get everyone excited for what these tools can do. Then we'll do some hand-on prompt basics and then go through a really important employee use policy here. So the company takes security and privacy seriously. It was sent out before this meeting, and we're going to walk through it. And a really important part of that grid is which data can you put into the public tools, the B2C ones, which data can you put into the Copilot that we're training on here today for your company, and which ones can't you put in neither of them according to company policy. And then next steps. So 50 hours of work here. So I've got here, so people who haven't seen it, this is what it looks like. You got ChatGPT 5 is up in the right-hand corner. I'm going to use that for my little demo here. I have 5 tabs open. And I'm just going to go over here and cut and paste 5 different prompts, each of which I think might take in a normal world 8-10 hours here. So the first one is analyzing a earnings report. So you are an expert at public stocks and high-tech markets here. Analyze this Google's Q1 earnings report here. And in the Q&A section, which follows our formal presentation, list which questions challenge the management the most. So this is asking not only a summarization, but also judgment on those questions here. And in here to add content, we go over here. Where's my... And that's going to start processing, and boom. Now that robot is off in business here. Let's get some more folks working for us. Another one I show you is an example of analysis here. So here, you're a competitive intelligence analyst. We like a simple prompt structure, role, what you're trying to do, and usually kind of what format do you want it. You want a table or output or report here. In this particular one, your competitive expert analysis, do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for OpenAI. And for each of those quadrants, flag one surprise instance per quadrant. So again, we're asking it to find, research, pull together, but also provide judgment back that us human in the loop can decide if it's a use for or not. Third one we want to do is a little more advanced marketing plan. So develop a marketing plan for left-handed pickleball rackets in the US. Come up with 15 product names that conveys uniqueness and confidence. Create 15, this is supposed to say marketing campaign names. And define a $1 million promotional and product. And this is the type of example that when your employees get comfortable putting in confidential information in the company, into these tools, you're really going to see the productivity gain. So boom, now we'll get that robot off and working here. Just two more. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Here we go. Here's a projection. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're an expert financial analysis. Develop 3 scenarios on what Bitcoin will be trading at in 12 months here, and detail your assumptions behind that. So again, it's analysis. I'm showing a lot of analysis examples here. And the last one is analyzing a website. So you're an expert in analyzing, improving website effectiveness. Analyze our conference website, come up with 5 improvements here. So I'm showing you here a different task, and I want you to think as we go through this training here, what are tasks that you have in your work, your daily work, that could save you 1, 3, 5, maybe even 8 hours a week here. So if we go back and look at some of the results here, here's the first one of Google's quarterly report. Talks about profitability. This is pretty straightforward summarization here. Low lights, it's determined what low lights were. And interestingly, here are the most challenging questions here from the Q&A. So there's all these, like 15, 20, 30 financial analysts on Wall Street ask the CEO and the CFO different questions here. And these are the questions and who asked them here. Most concerning aspect, and like again, like proactive employees, we're seeing AI, unlike 6 to 9 months ago, asking us for for additional things they can do. Here's a 1-page summary here, and I'll just go through this quickly here. Here's the SWOT analysis. One surprise: regulatory overhang. Apple partnership had 0 cash. Anyway, hopefully you get the point here. This is the left-handed pickleball. Segments, value proposition. Here's product names. These tools are fabulous for brainstorming. Brainstorming partner here. Here's themes for campaign themes. Here's a crypto analysis. I sent something similar to this. I used OpenAI deep research to a buddy of mine who trades in crypto, and it was a 35-page report, and he couldn't believe how comprehensive and relevant it was. So even subject matter experts are impressed with this, although I continue to find deep research, I wouldn't say this in training, but deep research in OpenAI better than the researcher here in Microsoft. And then lastly, here's what we ask it to do: to go to a website, do analysis, and come back with ideas on how we can make our conference website more actionable here. So buy the tickets, call to action is unmissable. Oh, so I guess that's a compliment. Great urgency. Anyway, hopefully you're getting a sense for these are the types of things that these tools can do. And I've only scratched the surface here. And now I want to go forward and go down to even more of a basic level here. First of all, there are 26 different to 30 different Microsoft Copilots. It's very confusing. If you feel confused, you're not the only one. There's a personal vision or B2C version and work. We're going to be training on the work one here today. And just to give you a sense for it, the Microsoft, they have a free one, just like the ChatGPT is free. They've got a $20 a month consumer one, individuals. They call that Copilot Pro, $20 a month, similar to ChatGPT. And today we're the ones for the business on the second line, the 365 Copilot Chat is the one we're focusing on. And that's the one to use at work. The core Copilot products. Copilot, here we just walk through those here, but they also have it embedded in many of the other Microsoft products. So there's Copilot for Teams, there's Copilot in PowerPoint, Word, and Outlook, and Excel. There's Copilot and bunch and GitHub and others. So there's embedded AI, and they call that Copilot, and there's also kind of standalone Copilot chat. Um, the pricing and licensing is also very complicated and nuanced, and no one's really figured it out here. And this stuff can add up pretty quickly here. But today, we're just focusing on that standalone Copilot 365. That's basically the equivalent to ChatGPT inside the Microsoft environment here. Make sure everyone knows how to log on. If you haven't, you should have had before this class, but if you didn't, let's do it right now. How do you know if you're on it? One important way is you can at least make sure you can see your email. And if I jump over to, let me jump out of here. Well, can't I jump out of here? Here we go. If you jump over to ChatGPT, down in the left corner is your name. If you click on that, then you'll see your work email. So there's the one I use for Copilot's the GAI Insights 001. I've got a few other, I got one for HBS and a few others, but this is the one I use for this. So that's how you know if you're in the right spot. A few other things to note. You saw earlier, you can decide what model. It comes out of the box with GPT-5 off. And if you want a little more powerful model, you can click this button here, and that turns it on. One of the things that Microsoft is doing that I think is a really important innovation is this work web tab. So if you do work, it's going to first search your internal documents, your OneDrive, your SharePoint, find versions of the corporate buyer's guide. And here it didn't search the internet. It searched the SharePoint things here, and you can see that you actually now click on pages here. It also showing me email activity and Outlook that's associated with it. So this is the beginnings of opening up much more easier and faster ways for your existing work content, which is of huge value. But if you just want to do kind of research externally, that's this web function. So now we can hit web, and go ahead, Rosemary. Rosemary, are you mute?
How's that?
Better.
Yeah, okay. So one of the issues with people searching using work is that what we find is that companies have just a boatload of old, outdated content. So they have price lists going back to the beginning of time, and the AI just brings those up because they're not dated properly and all that. So work can, I mean, people have to be really careful about what's in their work platform because the AI doesn't do a very good job of identifying what's the most recent.
Correct. Yeah, it's good point. And also, there's a lot of configurations in the back for IT to decide, to what extent they want all access to all drives and SharePoint's just a subset. So, but this is a new thing. It is confusing, and the Open ChatGPT tool doesn't have this. And when I say you get to choose a model, I'll sometimes put a request in. In my mind, I wanted to go to the internet, and ChatGPT is going around looking at my Google Drive, which is connected to it. And the web is what was last night's Red Sox score, which was painful because we lost to the Yankees. Although we won the first three, we just lost the fourth one in the series. Yeah, they crushed us 7-2. So anyway, you get an example that goes out there. So that's the up in the top right, over in the top right, way over here. This is start a new chat. You can click there. This button here you saw me do earlier. This is you can add content. We'll just add content for now. Either something I previously loaded, or you can hit add content and then upload a document from your desktop. Over on the left, This is the kind of search. This is another kind of organizational search, pros and cons, if this works well and how is it different here, but it's definitely another way that Microsoft is pushing it out there. Here are the different chats. And if you see down each time you do a chat, so each time you create a new chat, I guess I did one here, you'll see it over here in the left. So here's Red Sox versus Yankees. That's the one we just did. And I can go back to these anytime. In fact, if you look at all my quote conversations or chats, you can actually search them and go back time. And what's wonderful about this is that time doesn't exist. So if I want to go back and kind of pick up right where I was, it will remember everything in that chat, everything in that conversation we had 2 weeks ago about analyzing a solar market in Southern California. It'll still have it in that chat here. If people have questions, please raise your hand. I don't want to keep talking the whole time here. Down in administration, there's a few tools here. Oops, I don't want to get that. Under your name, there's a couple settings, pretty basic right now. Kind of appearance, languages, privacy. This looks very similar to custom GPT or OpenAI's ChatGPT about a year or so ago, and I suspect that Copilot, like ChatGPT, will start to grow as well. So you have a lot more dials on memory, how much it gets to know you, custom instructions, and things like that. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Oh, the question I had is when, let's say you've got you've got Microsoft apps on your different machines, like I do, and then you're also a 365 subscriber, and then you're also, you might be participating with somebody else's SharePoint. Do you know how what files you include and how you include them?
I don't. Someone on I mean, I'm assuming that if it's hosted, everything is hosted in a SharePoint, it will access that you have access to. I don't know if you've got access to SharePoints in other people's Microsoft instance. Yeah, Tim, do you know?
Yeah, in general, you don't. And in general, it depends on your permissions. So in general, it's going to follow your permissions, which are LDAP permissions. But I've already run across this a number of times where people thought they had access, but it's kind of squirrely. You have to often have access to each folder, not just the parent folder kind of thing. So it's a little squirrely and you will run into problems. Just like in general, it's no different, right? When you're trying to share files across SharePoint, you often have problems. My experience too, as I think I noted in an earlier meeting, there is a big limitation. I haven't tried the ChatGPT 5. I'm going to try that, but I don't think it's going to be any better. I've tried virtually every other share Copilot of all these many Copilots. You can only look at a small number of files. So if you have a really large, so it will look at across files if you're looking for like things that it can find in the title or things that it's indexed, and it'll give you a list of files to click on. If you want to say something like summarize the differences across all these files on this subject, it's got a very limited number of files, in my experience, around 20. And that's a very small number of files, which drives me nuts because it's SharePoint. They made SharePoint. Are you kidding me? Their SharePoint Copilot can only do 20 files. But that appears, and I understand. I figure what's happening is the context window is only so big, right? So until you go to an embeddings in a RAG architecture or something, some different kind of architecture, you're running out of context window pretty fast. So, but that's anyway, a long-winded answer.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Yeah, and
Mhm.
you can see I just ran Tim's scenario here and did find a couple things, a little bit to Rosemary's point. It did show the date of these arguments. Yeah, go ahead, Shetton. Am I saying that correctly? Oh no, this person's trying to get in. Any other comments or contributions on this? I mean, one big limitation I found that the window is much smaller in Copilot than ChatGPT. So I frequently have I don't know, list of 50 emails or a long document that I put in to Copilot, and it won't work because it's too long. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I'm just, thinking about the news earlier this week about, or last week about companies being disappointed at AI not immediately benefiting them from day one. And to me, I'm looking at this example, I'm just thinking that governance is such an issue. Just governance around the content that's just hanging out in all of these SharePoint
Yeah.
directories, and that just could be an area where if you really want to address effectiveness, there has to be some kind of governance structure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and Karen, we know some companies that on their customer support, because of that issue, they said, we don't want to look at old data, it is way too messy. We're going to start with a new a new set of data that starts with frequently asked questions and build from there, because it is such a mess. Yeah, go ahead, Vivek.
Yeah, Paul, I like one of my favorite use cases within Copilot is that if you just scroll back up to the prompt that you put in,
Yeah,
and if you just hover over it, there is that little clock button. If you click the clock button, no, the clock button, the one in the middle, you can then schedule this prompt to run every single day. So if you can think of all the use cases that enabled by that, right? So if you have your to-do list that you want to generate based on all your emails and Teams chats, and then, or if there's a constant thing you need to look at, right? Like stock tickers and things like that. So you can schedule this every single day. So essentially you are giving an executive assistant to go and can summarize everything for you. And you can create this automation. So it works really well.
really great, Vivek. Thank you so much for showing. And I think this is a great example of task automation, not just answer. We talked about going from search engines to answer engines to task engines here. So thank you. That's the basically. We also have agents. I'll just touch a little bit on agents. If your IT allows you to set it up, you can have both an analyst agent and a research agent. These are robots or agents or programs that are kind of designed to be either a research or analyzer with a little more prompt help in there. Typically, we don't spend a lot of time on agents in these 101 classes here. If you do want to create an agent, you can actually create your own, experiment a little bit with that, describe it. It's a great way to start learning that you don't need to create an agent to get value out of this tool here, but this is just what some people, which is where it's going. And if you have specific tasks, particularly you have tasks you want to share across people within the department here, a shared agent or GPT equivalent in the OpenAI world is really important here. And they also have an agent store, so you can also look up a lot of different agents here. And I think we're seeing a lot of different experimentations where here's an agent store or a little program store that's my Microsoft. I think increasingly we'll also see them just for your company, ones that are optimized for your process or your security architecture here. Great. And then I'm going to slow down for the spirit of time, but just so we get back to what we usually do in training then, walk through the navigation, then we walk through prompt. We say everyone, and there's, I don't know, a bazillion different ways to prompt. We like to just roll task output. It's easy to remember. But even better is to ask the AI to create the prompt. So create a prompt that does blank, and then you get the long prompt, and then you can copy that and put that into other things here. So if you want to create one, so create a prompt that analyzes if UFOs exist. So here, I didn't have to know anything. I'm just asking it to create the prompt. And now it's actually created the prompt here. And if we actually, let me do one that's a little more sophisticated here. Let's do, analyze, create a prompt to analyze all security risk for OpenAI, GPT teams. Show examples concerned. So this is just, so this is all my need. All I did was just say, this is the need I had. I'm using OpenAI. We're concerned about the thing here. We asked the robots, we asked Microsoft Copilot to create the prompt. And here's the, actually start running the prompt. Usually it doesn't run it. Usually take it this here, and then if you want to go into 5 and even to analyze, you can then go ahead and then run it. Now, as we're waiting here, sometimes you'll hear people talk about thinking or reasoning. So remember when you first saw ChatGPT, you'd put something in and boom, you get something back. That's almost like the non-thinking or the quick response. And a real profound improvements happen, starting I think like November last year, these things called reasoning models, where you put your prompt in here. It doesn't immediately start to work. It thinks about it. A chain of reasoning will come back and ask you a few clarifying questions, just like an intern or a human colleague would, and then it goes off on running here. And that's what you're seeing here, the quote, reasoning or thinking. It's gathering data, it's searching, it's deciding what to do. And if you want, you can click on each different piece of this here. We didn't tell it to go check on OWASP. It did itself here. So this is kind of the digital intelligence that we're talking about here. It's organizing, it's structuring the risk assessment here, and now it's developing the report here. So this is the great way where you start talking, at least saying how they got there and the actual report itself here. So let's go wrap up with the, so that's the prompting. We usually then take a couple, 15, 20 minutes, have people actually do basic prompts and show their work. I like to think about this as everyone's sitting around the cooking table or the kitchen, and we're doing learning together. We're all chopping the onions here because there's such an important part in learning here. But one thing that's really important is understand is employee use policy here. So first we talk about security. Usually get any security concerns out. Isn't it stealing all my data? Isn't it always under control? Didn't everyone steal data from each company's here? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just want to say that in these trainings, I've been struck by how important clarity on this use policy, security, and risk are, because back, Liz, you were saying that a lot of people and some others were saying that people are uncomfortable or uncertain of how to start. And when this isn't clear, this is one of the big things that people tell themselves as to why they shouldn't wade into that uncertainty. You know what I mean? So getting this clear, getting people comfortable, they're not going to get into any trouble. And for most people, it's a true motivation. For some, I think it's an excuse, not a reason. But most of the time, this has turned out to be a much bigger roadblock than I would have imagined.
Yeah. And ideally in person or on Zoom or one of the things that if we're doing this, we have in the room either a CEO or senior exec and someone from compliance just to reconfirm this, because this will want to demystify anything out there. And then we want to get to this chart here. This is an important chart that everybody needs to understand that usually causes lots of conversations here. So we have approved AI, or we have AI tools in the first one here. So Microsoft 360 Copilot, that's what we're training on today. Your company also has Salesforce Einstein, which is approved. And then there's other tools which are consumer facing, B2C, that's not official approved company tools, but you can have access to it. Gemini, Perplexity, and Claude. And usually companies have maybe 3 or 4 different tools here. The middle column are the columns are which tools you can use and which types of confidential secret data that you use at work every single day you're allowed to put in there. Company contracts, put that in there with confidence. That's solid ice. No one's going to steal that. No one's contractually going to do that. You're already using a hosted version of Salesforce. The same security around that is applied to this. If you're an investment company, portfolio holdings, customer downloads from Salesforce, proprietary investment research, proprietary software code. And this is the part of the conversation that we end up getting lots of. So despite our work with the compliance and AI team before that, an engaged group, and they almost always are, then start thinking about a lot of different things. What about this scenario? What about that scenario? And 80% of the time we actually have the answer, but a lot of times we don't, or the company doesn't. So this is a company policy issue here. And then the last one on the second column called never here's types of data that some companies never want you to put in there. Personally identifiable information, security code or social security numbers here, protected health information, credit card numbers. And we've had a few companies actually have specific like double confidential types of data that they put in that column as well here. And then over on the right here is public data here, and I meant to fill this one out here. This is ones where you need to work with the company that get clear guidance on, if I'm at work, can I use Perplexity to do market research if it doesn't involve customer data here? Most companies we work with said yes, but we actually have a handful of companies that absolutely don't want employees doing any work on these B2C tools. So none of those would be approved here. Questions or comments or thoughts? Other people seeing this at companies?
Yeah, Paul, I have a use case. So the prompt that you gave around like the left-handed pickleball, is that an example, would you say, of confidential data? If that's something that a company is thinking about, and that's sort of a silly one, but I mean, it could be something that you don't want to have going out into the public. Like, would you consider that the middle column, or is that the public?
It's a great question here. I think it's a company issue, not a things here. I will tell you, I don't want to use the name of companies, but massive mutual fund that you all know the name here. Their employees are now allowed at home to research industries because they're concerned that someone at home might be monitoring that, even if it's on a home computer, thinking about the size of blank market here. So that's an extreme version of that. I think most companies actually haven't thought through that. In general, I don't think it's that big a deal. But it's risk assessment. So someone's got to assess the risk on their side. Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Then we'll go to Paula.
Yeah, this issue certainly strikes close to home where I've been involved, that it takes a long time, because the initial employee reaction most of the time is nothing's allowed, or because most organizations are risk averse, and their compliance and IT departments are particularly risk averse. And so even if there is a way to do things, most employees are afraid of it. And then you start telling them, no, this is okay, you can use this, you can use that, but don't do this. And it's amazing how hard it is to overcome it. People just are busy, and it's very, very difficult to overcome it. And you have to constantly keep blasting it out that, nope, it's okay to do this. And I think one of the firms I'm working with has taken over a year, I would say, to kind of reverse that momentum of, oh, it's just too risky to use this stuff.
Yeah, and we've seen also security teams really flex, and no one pushes back. So we had one company where they had all the confidential in that never put it in. So the middle column, the only thing you put in the middle column was public data. So we're like, why are you even investing in a secure
Yeah, and that's another thing that it's very difficult to get through. It's hard for people because they get nervous. Well, is this really public data? If you can find it on a website on your personal computer, it's public data. And then to try and get them to realize, if it's public data, you can use any tool you want. Okay, knock yourself out. The company may not pay for it. You may have to pay for it if you want to use a non-free version, but you can do anything you want if it's public data.
Yeah.
And that's also a hard message to get through, because they're like, well, it's work. I know it's work. It's okay. You can do it.
Go ahead, Paula.
Yes, I just wanted to say that in some professions, like the legal field, I've heard concern about being able to prove what steps were taken, what prompts were used, what information was inputted into the system in the event that the fiduciary duty of confidentiality or due care is ever challenged, there's a record. So as a result, there is strong encouragement to use the company system as opposed to another public system, even if you did not put in confidential information.
That's great. Thank you, Paula. And Mark, I'm curious, other lessons you've had at Invoice Cloud? What have you learned as you've rolled it out?
I think that I think we have clearly defined policies for people to follow. I think by and large, people are really true to that. Yeah, there's people that are using Notebook and others, Perplexity and things of that nature, but there's not a lot of pushback on that right now. We just bought ChatGPT, and we're dumping Copilot, so that's good. Although I did really like that search feature that we just looked at today.
Thank you. Well, speaking of that, so that's example of a company. So you guys were Copilot, went to ChatGPT. We had another company. We trained all day in ChatGPT, and the next week they went to Copilot. IT came and said it here. And then we've got a third company that their view on this is that their view is we're never going to be able to afford productivity tool for all employees here. We're going to treat this just like Monday or Trello or something else here. So we are supporting two productivity tools, Copilot and ChatGPT. And Liz, you can pick one. Oh, you want that one? You'll get approval on that here. And the last thing we had is one company that was rolled it out very aggressively. And these things start adding up here. And I think consumption price is going to have to come. And that's might be an issue we'll all be talking about next year in terms of how do we start throttling usage down.
Good question, Paul. Did Microsoft have any training on this?
They do. There's a ton of training on self-service training. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of Microsoft resellers that do training. At least I have found all the self-service training doesn't work for 90% of employees. The goal is to get confidence going across the ice. And that's a human thing, and you need to have the conversations we had here. And not everyone's like Raymond that can just read something. Oh, this is secure. I'm going to go get the confidential information, put it in there, and off and go on here. So I think if the goal is to have compliance, it's say, hey, we rolled out Copilot to 10,000 employees, and I don't care how much they're using it, or if they all open it once, which one company did. That's one approach here. But if you're really serious about moving this to a cultural norm and having this as a robot co-intelligence, getting 10 to 30% productivity improvement for every one of your knowledge workers, particularly ones earning more than $100,000. At least in my experience, in my view, you have to do instructor and training here. It can be your own people. It doesn't have to be outside consultants here, but you're naive if you think you can just send stuff out. And busy, overstressed people are going to learn it.
When we were in the CAE business, customers could buy a certain number of seats, and that many people could log on simultaneously. Do they have that kind of marketing pricing model?
They do. They still have that, Robert. It's per seat pricing, both for the or per employee license pricing, both for the Copilot and ChatGPT. Yeah. Go ahead, Liz, and then we'll go to David.
I have a question not related to that, but related to the change that GPT went to 5.0. What happened to the custom GPTs from the previous models? And maybe you answered this, like if you had created those in 4.0 or whatnot, are they gone or where'd they go?
I think my understanding, they initially went away.
They're still there, Rosemary?
Yeah, they brought them back. Yeah.
Okay, then somebody's gonna have to show me how to where you get them so you can get them back, because I know those of us that had a bunch of them and were used to them, and then all of a sudden they were gone. And I'm like,
Lisa, hovering that point a little bit, that's one of the disadvantages using a public outsource. They control the upgrade schedule here. So this isn't upgrading bugs, this is upgrading logic. So imagine hiccup was done for the customer service app at Fidelity. So there's a whole bunch of reasons. There's a whole concept of own your own intelligence, getting more of it under your control here, so you can dictate when these changes.
So you don't lose all that work. But anyway, thanks, Rosemary. I'll tap you to find where the heck all that went.
Go ahead, David and Raymond.
You should see it on the left rail, and then you go to the top right, and it says My GPTs. I never lost mine.
Okay.
Paul, you and I have often talked about trying to go meta on all this and how hard it is to go meta enough. And I'm just wondering, in that context, have you thought about making an AI agent that acts as an AI evangelist for these companies, where it chats individually with people about their data and sort of aggregates that? And so that you have it working full time to sort of be an evangelist?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was telling someone earlier, at least for me, I've totally changed how I think about training. I used to get a room full of, 10 execs at a board meeting or 400 people at a conference and say, what I'm doing is I want to get everybody moved 10 yards down the field. I completely it's an absolute wrong approach. Now I think I'm in every meeting. The only thing I'm looking for is the GenAI enthusiast that I can light up that will get the juice and get the ball rolling after I leave the meeting here. So I think if you're really focused on transformational change in the company here and believe, John, that this is a capability that needs to be grown and not purchased, the only path I think to get there is the GenAI enthusiast.
Makes
So
sense.
I want to give them the idea and have them to go do it.
You mean they should make the agent for the
Yeah,
company? Yeah,
yes. Right.
that's a great idea. One other question too, it's a short, is, you're focusing on the wins, your wins thing. That makes a huge amount of sense. Do you ever worry that all the wins companies you're dealing with are going to be out of business because AI is so effective for doing what they do? I mean, on the one hand, they can benefit. On the other hand, the time window of them benefiting may not be as long as one might think.
I mean, a lot of people, David, asked, the world doesn't need a million search engines. It coalesced around one or two. What about basic law effort? What about, there's one big Wikipedia here. So that Price's Law, where you get 90% of the stuff goes to one, I think is a really interesting debate on what that happens.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. As I finish up, go ahead, Raymond, take us home here.
Yeah, everything I'm hearing, it's just like I'm just so grateful that that I heard earlier in this, almost 2 years ago in this meeting, own your own intelligence, because I just love the open source. So I think today, like, I'm just finding that all these tools are just, if you know a little bit about what they're all built with. I went to Open AI and they were talking about their agent SDK, and they give like one little tiny example. And I took that example and I went over to, like, I don't know if it was DeepSeek or Perplexity, or no, it was either DeepSeek or Grok with a Q. And I said, help me wrap this in Streamlit. And the next thing I knew, I had a Streamlit application that I could just go in and do stuff. And it reminded me, a couple of months ago, I was listening to orchestral maneuvers in the dark, OMD, and those initials reminded me of, like, like OMD. I was like MCP, D like DS pi, and then open. And so, like, I put together this application where I put those together, and it's like amazing. And then last night I was working on another project, and I needed I wanted to integrate like Notebook LM, and there's an open Notebook LM, and within 15 minutes I had it running on my desktop, which is amazing. I wish I could show you. It's like you can put in your own models. I have a Llama, OpenAI, Grok, XAI, which is the other Grok, Google, Gemini, Anthropic, 11 Labs, and Mistral. And then I can add the other ones I haven't added yet are Open Router, Vertex, Voyage, Azure, DeepSeek, and OpenAI compatible right on my desktop. So I can just do, whatever. And when, someone just mentioned, having companies have their own AIs, I don't think it's that difficult to have like a small team to just have your own, and you don't have to worry so much about, what OpenAI does or what, Google does or whatever, I don't know if am I crazy?
No, I think two at least companies tell me two things. One is that from risk management, that's one. Two, at the end of the day, we've seen big tech break contracts all right and left. So at some point, AGI is going to say, "Oh, look at that! We have all this Cigna data over here for 80 million customers here. We need some more training data." I calculated the odds of, So anyway, it's
Yeah, all I'm saying is, like, I'm one of those enthusiasts. I'm having a blast. I just hope it lasts. I just hope they don't come down on us and say, you need a driver's license to use an AI or Open ID or something. I'm just having a great time. So
well, that's fabulous. So let's leave on that note. AI positives, another great learning lab. Thanks everyone's contribution here, and we'll keep the learning going.